What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. It's election day. Now, earlier this morning, I talked about how I'm very confident things are looking positive for a blue wave for Pierre Poilievre today, based on what we're seeing around us. Take the statistics out, take the rigged polls, take anything you want out of the equation. You look at what you're seeing. Actions speak louder than words. The crowds, the support, the turnout, the outcries for affordability, all of it are relevant in this election, that I think Pierre stands a good chance of winning this election. By the way, join me tonight here on live stream for full election coverage with Mrs. Fringe. We're going to sit down and go over the results as they come in. We're going to do many giveaways tonight. We're going to have a great time here on the channel. A lot of fun. The greatest community on the YouTube platform. So join us here tonight, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, for full election coverage on the channel. I have to talk again about MCGA and a video that's come out recently. Now, I'm not here to criticize. I'm going to be very blunt. This isn't picking YouTube fights. This isn't drama. This isn't criticizing, beyond the fact of a little bit of take things with a grain of salt. Now, I called out a video last week in regards to MCGA, speaking about unattended boxes that were open for ballots in a St. Albert Mall in Alberta, saying that he made the claim that there were votes in those boxes. There were no votes in those boxes. They were manila envelopes with supplies for voters, or for polling stations, I should say. Now, I cleared that up with him. Again, he was more concerned about voter fraud, voter ID fraud. We've cleared all that up. Water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned. He also had removed that section of his video acknowledging that there were no ballots in those boxes. But we've run into a small problem again, because a recent video by him has come out now that I have to once again critique. It says, "I caught elections workers taking the votes home." Now, at the time of filming this video has over 100,000 views. What I have to point out here again isn't to be a jerk. It's not to be mean. I worry about the hysteria that a video like this will cause people on election day. I worry about false information and hearsay. I'm going to get into that as we go through the video. I'll play what's been, and due diligence, and shout out to MCGA for taking the time to follow. Like, he's at an elections office here, filming in his vehicle. He sees multiple people leaving with boxes. That's undeniable. The questions of those boxes, there's one of them there. Again, he follows one of them to see where they're going. One of them ends up at home, and he actually takes the time to question one of them, again, doing his due diligence, making sure that everything's on the up and up. He ends up at this guy's home, and they have a very good conversation. I want to show that conversation, because this is what leads up to the issue with this video, and why I don't want people jumping the gun so quickly, to at least take this with a grain of salt. Again, nothing against Spencer at MCGA. I worry about how this will look to the Liberals. I worry about, again, his video was mentioned in an article talking about open ballot boxes. They were talking about the integrity of the election, how to cover things, and that was one day after his last video. The problem when we look at a possible Mark Carney win tonight is Mark Carney already wants to censor YouTube. He already wants to shut us all down. He says that we're unreliable news sources, that we shouldn't have the freedom to speak online. This is part of the problem when you get into these kind of videos. Now, as he goes to the house, I want to show you this conversation that takes place between him and this gentleman, and then the conversation that I had with MCGA as to why this is an issue. At least for the Fringe. For verification. So let's take a listen to the conversation. I'll point out what I need to, and then we'll move on.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Are you bringing a ballot box home?
Yeah.
With votes in it? It's an empty ballot box? It's an empty ballot box?
Yeah, this is for Monday.
So right there, he says it's an empty ballot box. And again, if you can hear the audio in the background, the guy says, yeah, it's for Monday. So it's an empty box, again, similar to the boxes I talked about in my other video, where we showed the empty boxes that were open, unfolded, unused, with the yellowish manila envelope full of supplies in them.
do it ahead of time? That you guys take them home
Well, the boxes are empty.
with?
You're supposed to pick up your stuff today and tomorrow, and then set up on Monday.
So again, just for context, he says you're supposed to pick up the boxes today and tomorrow, and then we set them up for Monday. Again, so that everything runs smoothly, so they're at the elections polling offices they have to be at for Monday. Again, I don't know, and for fair context sake, I don't know if everybody leaving this location was set to go to this specific location on Monday to set up, because at that point it doesn't make sense that they're taking boxes to go home. But if they're taking those boxes to different polling stations, if there's a central polling station where they pick those boxes up from to take them to polling stations like a high school or a church, that would make sense for organization's sake, because the polls open quite early.
So even at the early voting places, they send the boxes home with folks?
I'm not sure about the early voting. I didn't work that.
No way. So they send everybody home with a box?
For the early ones?
For what? You got a box.
Yeah. It's empty.
There's no plain empty votes in it?
No, there's nothing.
Why would they send you home with it?
Because you have to bring it Monday morning.
Back to the building that you took it from?
No, to your polling place, wherever you're.
So right there's confirmation. You bring it back to that same building? No, we take it to the polling place we're looking at. This is organization so far. Okay, because I don't want to debunk what Spencer has reported. Again, I don't want to cause a problem. I know he went on a live stream tirade, called me every name under the sun. I'm not going to get into all that. But what is shown here is this guy having a good civil conversation, putting Spencer's mind at ease, saying, look, the box is empty. These are boxes we take to the polling stations on Monday. Let's continue.
So the polling place, let's say in Dundas, does that change on Monday?
Bring it there, yeah, and then at the end of the night, you count the ballots, and then the supervisor takes it to the head office.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Find it strange that why would they not just leave them in the building?
Good question. It would be a lot easier.
Because you took that from Upper James, right?
Yeah. That's where the headquarters is.
Is that not a voting place on Monday? Can you vote at Upper James on Monday?
I don't know if you can or not.
So right there. So again, Spencer trying to make sense out of it, saying, can you not go to Upper James and vote on Monday? He says, I don't know. I don't know if that's a voting place there. So this gentleman is not working at that location. Again, this is just organization to make sure that the people working at the elections have the supplies they need, that they're organized. They go into the polling station, they set up shop, they take people's votes. Again, I don't see anything wrong here so far. So far. Now, this isn't to go without saying that there are loopholes and issues. There are cracks within our electoral system. I fully agree that there is potential for problem. I do believe that when it comes to what he showed on his last video, that he got in with a credit card, he got in with a pill bottle, what the rules are for certain voting states, those outlets should be dealt with for issues that are found. I am 100% in agreement with that. But what we're talking about here isn't voter ID. This is ballots. This is telling people you saw them taking votes home. That's what the title says. I caught elections workers taking votes home. I'm going to get into that. Again, this is false claims so far. Let's continue.
So let's say you can. Are you returning that back to Upper James?
I won't be. The supervisor will.
They come to your home and collect that box?
No. From the polling station.
So where does this go?
Wherever you vote, wherever the zone is. Like Thomas More has a poll. St. Andrew's Church has a poll. And there's a couple others too around here.
So again, I'm sorry I have to keep cutting in, but I know this guy's going to jump all down my throat. I got to make sure I'm catching every little bit here for context for everybody. This gentleman's having a nice conversation with Spencer, telling him, look, the supervisor comes and takes the box at the end of the night. I'll clear all that up with Elections Canada rules for you folks, so don't worry, we're going to get into that. But he says the supervisor comes and takes the boxes. They take them to the head office, where, again, certain procedures are done to verify the votes. But again, nothing here says that this guy's got ballots, that this guy's taking votes home. There are some that take votes home, but I'm going to get into that. Again, I don't agree with our election rules. I think there should be better, more efficient ways of doing our election beyond people taking votes home, even if they're supervisors. However, I believe the process is intact, and I'm going to get to that. So again, this guy's kind of laying it out for Spencer that, look, we just bring these boxes home, we set up, somebody else comes to get them. We're just doing what we have to do for the election.
Don't you find that a bit odd?
That's the way it is. That's the way it's always been done. I worked the last election too. It was the same thing.
Okay, so that's the way it's always been done. I worked the last election too. It's the same thing. Again, important to point that out.
So that's not full of votes.
No.
Thank God.
No, it's empty.
So that right there, now right there is where I'm going to have discrepancy with this video. Is he asked the guy, so it's not full of votes? He says, no. He says, thank God, which gives me the impression as a viewer, he is acknowledging there's nothing in that box. He's agreeing with the poll worker. There's nothing in that box. And he even says, I'll show you. Let's continue.
I'll show you. List of supplies you need, that's all.
So there he is standing outside the car. He says, it's all the supplies you see. He's showing him the box. Now, this is where I think this crosses a threshold when you make the claims. And again, I'll show you the conversation for context's sake. But he's clearly looking inside the box. He is not filming the inside of this box. Again, he's in his car. I'm guessing he doesn't want to make the guy feel awkward by putting him on camera. Whatever you have, whatever reason you have, you cannot make claims that you saw them taking votes home if you don't have it on camera. In legal terms, this is what's called hearsay. So we're expected to take Spencer's words for face value that he saw votes in these boxes, because there is no further footage other than conversations had with Elections Canada about returning officers, about supervisors. And again, we don't need to get into all of that because it circles around this video. I know he's going to say, you didn't watch the whole video, you didn't talk about the whole video. We don't need to, because it's his conversation about what happens with votes, and we're going to go over that data. We're going to go over those rules. But what he's claiming by this clip, that he is not showing the inside of that box, he's not filming it, but claiming he saw votes in there, when the man is saying, look, it's empty, I'll show you. So let's just let it wrap up, and then I'm going to go over where I have discrepancy. But this is the moment where I said we need to make a video about this.
What's in the yellow?
That's all your supplies.
Are there empty ballots in there?
Nope.
Okay, so again, he verifies there's no empty ballots in there. It's supplies only. No empty ballots. So there's no unmarked ballots in that box.
No, it's all empty stuff you have to write down, right? It's a lot of paperwork.
Okay. Well, I appreciate
You should work it.
I appreciate your time.
It isn't worth the money, though. Trust me.
Well, thank you for your volunteering to the country.
I mean, you know, if we don't vote, you're screwed, right?
It's the only exercise that we got left to express our views for the country, right?
You know, it doesn't matter who you vote for as long as you vote. I mean, everybody has their own view, right? Their own opinion. But
So this guy sounds pretty reasonable. And again, I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want anybody to think I'm climbing down Spencer's throat. The problem here, and again, I'm sure he'll call me every name under the sun again. The problem is that you cannot make those kind of claims that you saw them going home with votes when there's no visible proof. There's no physical proof other than your own opinion. Again, legal terms, that's called hearsay. You cannot publish hearsay as fact. And what's wrong with this is that, again, you have over 100,000 viewers. Many people have sent me this link, by the way, since yesterday when this video dropped, saying, Fringe, another video has been dropped. I'm scared. I'm worried about the election. And keep in mind, this sounds like it's a Hamilton riding. So again, it's very critical, normally a very liberal area. So I understand where people's concerns would be about the election. The problem comes with the discussion that was had. So here is I normally don't show DMs but for context's sake, I'm going to show it here. I reached out to MCGA as he requested the last time I made a video. Hit me up in the DMs. Now, he's going to be mad that I made this video, and I don't care because, again, I feel that I have the right to make this video. I think I have the right to put our voters at ease, to say, take all this with a grain of salt. I'm not denying what he saw. What I am saying is that if you don't have physical video proof or an image or a picture of it, it's hearsay. I want to go through what I said to him. I just watched your video. I just wanted to clear a few things up because I'm as concerned as you are. The video you have of the guy saying he took the box home, he said it was the envelope in it with the supplies. Is that correct? Meaning the same box that I pointed out in the previous video that he had a hissy fit over. I said, I just didn't know where to connect the dots with your phone call to Elections Canada because you'd mentioned there were no sealed bags. Now, during his phone call with Elections Canada, he mentions that there were votes in there were no sealed bags to that extent. Again, I'm not quoting verbatim, but it came along the lines that I saw votes in there and they weren't sealed. So he tells that to the Elections Canada worker. And this is where I couldn't connect the dots. I said, but the other guy said to you that the box was empty. What am I missing? He says he lied and said two different things. From what I could see out my window, the box was full. Furthermore, the Elections Canada supervisor confirmed on the call that, in fact, Elections Canada's officials bring votes home. Well, of course they do. We're going to go through the rules of that. He says, and according to Elections Canada, that box itself was supposed to be sealed. Again, let's clear that up. Now, of course, you do see a bubble down here. I can't scroll down any further, but I said that's the only part that doesn't make sense. It's a shame you weren't able to get a shot of the box. Understandable, so you were in your car. That's where I got confused because the guy talking to you said it was the one with nothing but the envelope and supplies. Couldn't figure out where the votes came from. Thanks for clearing it up. So it says here, according to Elections Canada, the box itself was supposed to be sealed. It's supposed to be sealed when there are ballots in front of it. Again, when we go back to his video, and again, you can repeat the video back where I'm blabbering on. He clearly says to the guy, it's empty. Take a look for yourself. And Spencer says, there's no votes in it. The guy says no. He says, thank God. But he looks inside the box and he never once says to the guy, there's more than that envelope in the box. Hey, there's ballots in there. Hey, there's an open bag in there. The problem with this, again, is making the claim. It's not that he didn't see what he's saying he saw. The problem is making a claim of hearsay and producing it and putting it out on the interwebs to get everybody riled up and tell people there's trickery going afoot. Now, to provide further context, let's go to an article that cites the rules of Elections Canada. Because again, Spencer says the returning officers do take the ballots home. That is true. Now, I don't agree with that, and I do think our elections need to be fixed to a certain extent. But let's take a look at this on the rules. Here's counting the ballots. The rest of the votes, even from advance polls, are not counted until election night. Counting can start 1 hour before polls close, but the results will not be published until all polls close. The ballots are counted by at least 2 paid election officials in front of people who do not work for Elections Canada. Typically the candidates or their representatives in a room with closed doors. And it goes on. This means that the counting of votes is open to scrutiny, ensuring that the process is followed as set out by law and can be easily audited. So again, 2 nonpartisans stand in there to scrutinize with Elections Canada officials. However, the 2 scrutinizers are non-biased. They're not paid, they're not hired, they're not in on it. Purely neutral parties. No one is allowed to leave the room until the count is done. No one else is allowed to enter. The officials unfold each ballot and say the name marked out loud as they tally the votes on paper. The workers total the number of electors who voted as well as the number of spoiled and unused ballots before sealing the ballots and delivering them to the returning officer. So again, the returning officer, who is the official in charge of managing the election for the electoral district. Now, the election officer does take early votes home. Those are sealed as well. Now, again, I've spoken to an Elections Canada worker. Many of them chimed in on my last video and said, I've worked there. Even the pre-ballots are sealed with tape and they are signed and they are not opened until election night. There's a paper inside that matches the number of ballots. So if anything were to be taken out, if anything were to be altered, you wouldn't have the signature on the tape. You also wouldn't have the ballots matching up with the paperwork. And it goes on to say that here. The returning officer records the vote counts in a computer program that securely sends the information to Elections Canada main office. It's very secure, they quote. Closed system, and every part of it is covered in the Elections Act. Elections Canada spokesperson James Hale told CBC News. So there's nothing left to chance. Now, again, I know this is a CBC article, but again, they're interviewing Elections Canada officials. They're going over the actual rules. Let's continue. Where do advance ballots go until Election Day? At the end of each advance polling day, the deputy returning officer, and only them, seals each ballot box slot and signs the seal. The poll clerk and central poll supervisor, as well as any party or candidate representatives who are present, must also sign the seal, which prevents ballots from being added or removed from the box. Additional seals are placed on two sides of each box. If they were to be removed and replaced, they would no longer match the information on the seal control sheet, which would result in an incident being detected, Elections Canada says. Each box is then sealed in an official transport bag, which the deputy returning officer takes it home for the night and returns it the next day to hold more ballots. So again, each bag is sealed with tape. In the week between advance polls and Election Day, the ballot boxes are either kept in the custody of the deputy returning officer, again at their home, or locked up at an Elections Canada office until they are opened or counted on election night. Now, this is where I have an issue with them taking it home, is when it goes home, technically somebody could say, well, those are our votes sitting there. Those are votes that could be manipulated. It could be, you're breaking the seals on those tapes. You're breaking the signatures. The paperwork doesn't match up with the ballots. Folks, I don't want to, again, barrel down on any other YouTubers. I don't want to cause controversy. What I want to do is bring calm to the storm. I want to ensure people that I firmly believe that our elections, at least for the most part, are safe and secure. I've never questioned my ballot before. Yes, take a pen. Yes, do whatever makes you feel right when you're voting to ensure the integrity of your vote. Do I believe that there's trickery afoot? Of course, there always is. Do I believe in corrupt governments? Absolutely, I do. Do I believe there's loopholes in our legal system that result in bad elections? Yes, I do as well. However, in this instance, if you're going to put out videos, again, making claims, I saw them take votes home, and you have no footage of it, no picture of it. The audio tells a different story than what you're presenting. Again, him saying, thank God there's no votes in the box. The guy saying, look, I'll show you, it's empty. And no questioning saying, I'm seeing something else in there other than that envelope you're claiming has supplies. None of that is on camera. I'm not again denying Spencer's claim. What I'm saying is that if that is what you have, you cannot make the claim that you saw them go home with votes. The deputy returning officer, yes, they go home with votes. But we've covered the legal rules of that and why it happens. I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you believe there's shenanigans afoot? Are you buying the fact that you think votes are being taken home and altered? Or do you think our elections are secure for the most part? Let me know what you think down below. Again, join me tonight for election coverage here on the channel starting at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central with Mrs. Fringe. It's going to be a long night, folks. Buckle up because it's going to be a great evening. I think that Pierre is going to take it by a landslide. At least I hope so. I'm going to be naive. I'm going to hope for the best. Hope that we see some change tonight, not a minority government. Anything less than a majority is a loss as far as I'm concerned. But join me tonight. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, hit that button. Join our large Fringe majority. We're on the way to 100,000 subscribers. We're growing at an alarming rate. Thank you to everybody who's been joining the channel throughout the election coverage, who's been coming here saying that we put out quality videos. Really appreciate each and every one of you adding to our community. That's already the most amazing community on the platform. I look forward to chatting with each and every one of you tonight in our live streams and hearing what you have to say heading into this election. And I look forward to talking with you again at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.